It's a Tuesday morning, just past 11, and you're sitting in the waiting room of a private bank. The marble floor gleams beneath your feet, polished to a near mirror finish. Beside you sits a man who looks completely out of place. Faded t-shirt, worn jeans, sneakers that have seen better days. The receptionist keeps stealing glances at him, like he wandered in by mistake. When his name is called, he rises without urgency and walks calmly toward the wealth manager's office. That man controls $14 million in assets held by this very bank. You only know this because his name flashes on the reception screen moments later when the appointment list refreshes. And in that single instant, something clicks that most people spend their entire lives missing. Real wealth almost never announces itself. What gets announced is almost always something else entirely. Over the next few minutes, you're going to understand why the people who have the most tend to show the least, and why that's not an accident, not cheapness, and not eccentricity. It's a deliberate strategy, one that protects money, multiplies it, and keeps it from becoming a target. You'll also understand why most people do the exact opposite and end up paying an enormous price for it. Now, picture a completely different scene. Saturday night, upscale restaurant, parking lot. A sports car roars in and claims 2 spaces so no one scratches the paint. 2 people step out draped in designer labels from head to toe. Every head turns. Everyone notices. That couple spent more on that car and those outfits than most people manage to save in 5 years. But almost nobody stops to ask how much they owe, what their credit card balance looks like, whether the car payment is current, or what their bank account holds after that dinner is paid for. Here's the core problem worth examining. We live in a culture that confuses spending with having. It mistakes looking successful for actually being successful. And that confusion, seemingly harmless, is one of the primary reasons so many people work their entire lives and end up with almost nothing, while others, far quieter, build fortunes their own neighbors never suspect exist. To understand why this happens, you need to know where this culture of visible wealth actually came from. For most of human history, displaying wealth made practical sense. In societies where most people barely survived, a gold ring or a large house served as a reliable signal of status. People had no way to verify actual net worth, so outward symbols were the only available information. If you looked wealthy, you almost certainly were. But the world changed completely, and that signal stopped being reliable. Today, buying the appearance of wealth has never been easier. Credit exists. 7-year car loans exist. Credit cards hand out massive limits on modest salaries. You can rent luxury handbags, watches, even sports cars for a single weekend. The gap between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy has never been wider, and yet most people still treat visible symbols as meaningful signals. What results is a kind of social theater. Everyone performs for an audience that doesn't actually have nearly as much money as it appears to have, and is performing right back. It becomes a closed loop of people impressing each other with money most of them don't genuinely possess, financed by debt nobody can see. Economist Thomas Stanley, author of The Millionaire Next Door, documented something that surprised many people when it first surfaced. Most American millionaires didn't live in mansions or drive luxury vehicles. They lived in middle-class neighborhoods and drove cars several years old, often purchased secondhand. Meanwhile, many of the people living in mansions and driving new cars had surprisingly low or even negative net worth once their debt was subtracted. The takeaway isn't that spending is wrong. The takeaway is that the visual signal of wealth and actual wealth almost never align, and confusing the two can cost you decades of your financial life. Now consider two people, both 35, both earning $90,000 a year. Person A wants the world to know things are going well. New car, $650 monthly payment. Price your apartment, $400 more per month than necessary. Fresh designer wardrobe every season. Expensive restaurants several times a week, partly for enjoyment, partly for the social media highlight reel. By month's end, almost nothing remains. Whatever survives disappears into the next unexpected expense. Person B, same salary, makes different choices entirely. Drives a 6-year-old car already paid off. Lives in a modest but comfortable apartment well below what they could afford. Simple, functional clothing. No financial performance online. Nobody passing them on the street would guess their income. Every month, a meaningful portion of their paycheck routes automatically into investments before it ever gets a chance to become a purchase. 10 years later, the gap between these two lives isn't measured in thousands. It's measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars, built entirely from the compounding effect on money person B chose not to spend on appearances. And during all 10 of those years, person A looked like the successful one. Person B looked average, perhaps even unremarkable, but the financial reality was completely reversed. This leads to something worth sitting with. The public perception of success and actual financial success are almost never the same thing. In many cases, they actively oppose each other because every dollar spent performing success is a dollar that can no longer build it. Looking discreet, free of visible wealth signals, also functions as active protection against threats most people never consider. When your lifestyle doesn't reveal what you hold, you become far less attractive as a target. Scammers don't flag you as worth pursuing. Aggressive salespeople don't read you as an easy upsell. People in your personal circle don't quietly assume you're sitting on spare cash. And in any legal dispute, visible wealth attracts attention from lawyers who weigh not just who's right, but who can actually pay. There's a phrase that circulates among wealth advisors that states it plainly. Money you can see gets asked for, envied, or sued. Money you can't see just keeps growing. Understanding the psychology behind all of this matters more than memorizing the rules. Spending money to look successful delivers an almost instant social reward. Someone admires your car, compliments your outfit. Your brain gets an immediate hit of validation. Fast, visible, easy to repeat. But that reward is fleeting. It fades within hours and immediately demands to be fed again. Investing, by contrast, offers no instant reward. Nobody stops you on the street to congratulate you for transferring money into your investment account. The reward arrives years later, in the form of freedom, options, and peace of mind, much larger but much slower. And the human brain reliably prefers immediate over delayed. That tension plays out inside every financial decision, every single day. People who accumulate real wealth are almost without exception those who learn to tolerate the discomfort of skipping the immediate reward because they understood they were building something far more valuable in the background. Here's where theory becomes practical. You don't need dramatic overnight changes. It starts with 3 straightforward decisions, repeated consistently over time. The first is this. Before any significant purchase, ask honestly whether you're buying it for yourself or for someone else's perception of you. A car chosen for reliability and peace of mind is a rational decision. A car chosen to impress the neighbors is an emotional decision dressed up as a need. The second decision involves the order of your financial priorities. Most people spend first and invest whatever remains, which is usually nothing. People who build real wealth invest the moment income arrives and structure everything else around what's left. That simple reversal, applied month after month, is arguably the most important financial habit available to anyone. Stop measuring your life against what you see online. Most of it is edited, financed, or rented. Measure yourself against who you were a year ago. That's the only comparison that matters. This isn't about deprivation. It's about the difference between enjoying money privately and performing it publicly. You can live well, travel, and treat yourself without turning your life into a display for people who aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you assume. The man from the private bank didn't start with millions. He started modestly, drove used cars, lived below his means, and reinvested consistently for decades. While others overlooked him, his wealth compounded quietly. Today, he could buy almost anything. He simply doesn't need to. Because real freedom isn't being able to afford expensive things. It's not needing anyone to know you can. Looking rich requires constant spending and approval. Being free is quiet. So before your next big purchase, ask yourself, is this improving my life or my image? That question alone can change your financial future.